Time, the concept, has countless ways of being defined, just as perspectives on it are seemingly endless and not fully comprehensible. A person's life is measured by time. The development of all things is gauged by time. Even the birth and death of this universe are accounted for in terms of time. Humans continually seek to define time, understand it, and above all, control it. The desire to grasp and manage human time is perhaps most evident in our relentless pursuit of time travel. The story of the relationship between humans and time may seem limited, but in reality, it is vast and profound. In this video, we will present you with a completely new perspective, one that we have not yet discussed together. Hello, viewers, this is a video about the philosophy and physics of time travel. Setting aside countless concepts, forms, and ways in which time is depicted in movies or elsewhere, we surely need something more tangible to discuss time. Firstly, it can be said that time is entirely different in every case. The perception of the concept, the way time is divided, varies greatly depending on each individual's perspective, each field. We will start with the easiest point, which is categorizing types of time. First and foremost, there is scientific time. Scientific time can be understood simply as the division of time into evenly spaced intervals measured by a clock. It has no color, no brightness, no morning or afternoon, no evening or night. It is the same regardless of whether one is in prison or enjoying freedom in the outside world. Time inexorably flows forward, it does not stop, it does not wait, it just flows, it just pulls. This is time that is deemed uniform for everyone, and humans cannot alter anything about it. It is just the succession of totally external, indifferent, mechanistic entities. That's science for you. However, if one wishes to engage with time, humans still have another way of dividing it. That is physiological time, understood as a type of time somewhat influenced by humans. It could be called growth time, yet it hasn't fully extended into the realm of consciousness. But it has human essence within it. Thus it has been distorted, expanded by individuals, by age, by moods. Physiological time is more pronounced in youth compared to old age because, in old age, the body undergoes minimal significant development. For instance, a wound in a 5-year-old child heals faster than in a 50-year-old individual. Another level related to human cognition is psychological time. Psychological time is measured by emotions, mood, impressions. Depending on the circumstances, people perceive time differently as short or long. When young, time seems to pass quickly because we encounter many new things, have various pleasures. We are swept along in the social currents with numerous knowledge, relationships, and tasks needing to be addressed in a day. It's not for nothing that they say time flies when you're having fun. When freedom is lost, time seems endless. These are the most basic, purest understandings of time, yet they are not enough. To grasp, to control time, we need a truly profound study of it. Such deep research undoubtedly must come from philosophy, the mother of all sciences. There are various philosophical streams regarding the concept of time. Most thoughts on time come from Western philosophy, while Eastern philosophical traditions have comparatively less discourse on this topic. Many famous figures, leading Western philosophers, have discussed time as a serious and deeply studied subject. In the years 544 to 583 BC, a figure emerged with a statement that remains famous and relevant to this day. He is Heraclitus, a renowned scholar of ancient Western philosophy, hailing from a noble family in Ionia. However, he led a life of great poverty and solitude. In Heraclitus's view, everything in our world is always changing, continuously in motion and development. The world is like an eternal stream, constantly flowing. Based on this perspective, he famously stated that one cannot step into the same river twice. Everything is in flux, with successive changes occurring perpetually. These changes both oppose each other and give rise to each other, like light and darkness, heat and cold, day and night. Nothing is stable like a river, nor is there continuous change like a river. Even when it appears still, it is in a state of transformation. Time is characterized by movement, not by stillness. However, not everyone agrees with this viewpoint. Foremost among dissenters is Parmenides, who posited that existence is eternal, and all change is merely appearances. Similarly, Plato, in this vein, believed that alongside the world of changing phenomena, there exists a world of ideas, of souls, a timeless, immutable realm beyond time's influence. Time thus becomes the moving image of eternity, the unchanging. For over 200 years, reaching around the 3rd century BCE, we gradually encountered new strands of thought. In the case of philosopher Aristotle, he proposed that the essence of nature is change, defining the study of natural philosophy as the examination of changing objects. According to him, time is the measure of motion between before and after. Time is continuous because it depends on continuity. Only the present time is truly real. Then we witness the emergence of a famous philosophical school called Stoicism. It carries the notion of sufficiency, meaning having enough, being one of the most valuable factors in life, a life of quiet, peaceful, and serene existence. This happiness is found through self-restraint or self-control, including the ability to control desires and master oneself, not allowing oneself to be carried away by impulses. According to Stoicism, time is not substantial, but all existing and moving things are within time. Time is inherent in the life of the world, that is, in creation, because the universe is nature, it is creation. So what about modern philosophy? In the latter half of the 17th century, we have Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, a scholar who played a significant role in European politics and diplomatic affairs of his time. He held equally important positions in both the history of philosophy and mathematics. In philosophy, he is most remembered for his optimism. His conclusion was that our universe is, in a limited sense, the best of all possible worlds that a supreme being could create. Leibniz believed that time, like space, is entirely relative and lacks substance. Space is the order of what can coexist, whereas time is the order of what can succeed one another but is related to each other. This is the unresolved problem of time, because how can one explain its dual nature, successive yet continuous, discriminating yet inclusive of the moments forming it? In summary, time is not one but two. It is both a natural, objective law, overarching, and a subjective concept of humans. Only humans are conscious of time. Humans are the only creatures aware of their mortality and the continuous flow of time, where existence is contingent upon time. In Buddhism, when addressing the issue of time and its related aspects of the world, the teachings often emphasize that with narrow perspectives and minds filled with their own fantasies, humans cannot fully comprehend the origin of the universe. Humans can only understand in a general sense that the formation and destruction of the world occur over various long periods of time. The time of each lifetime, within each realm, often depends on the karma of sentient beings in that realm. The Buddha taught that one should not dwell on the past nor excessively yearn for the future. The present moment is the most vivid and meaningful moment in each person's spiritual development. Living in the present is a lifestyle that the wise have experienced and passed down to future generations. It is through abiding in this way of life that one realizes the unity between oneself and others, between humans and all beings. From this realization, one suddenly recognizes that the self is merely a distant shadow, and one's existence always depends on the existence of others and countless other karmic connections. These are the most representative aspects of what people know about time through the philosophical lens. What about the dream of grasping, controlling human time? What have we achieved so far? Perhaps philosophy is not the wise path to realize it. We need a different approach. Physics might provide us with that path. The modern understanding of time and causality relationships mostly stems from the theory of relativity. Albert Einstein unified space and time, creating the concept of spacetime, explaining the mechanisms of both in an extremely complex and subtle manner. It has been over 100 years since the theory of relativity emerged and has been tested and confirmed with extremely high accuracy. Therefore, physicists believe that the theory of relativity is the key to accurately describing the causal structure of the universe. For decades, scientists have been trying to use the theory of relativity to analyze whether time travel is feasible or not. Some equations they have put forward show that time travel is entirely compatible with relativity theory. However, physics still relies on the foundation of mathematics because these equations would be meaningless if they did not correspond to practical time travel. Time travel is a concept of movement, purportedly transporting a person or object from one point in time to another. It is understood similarly to movement between different points in space and is often conceptualized by a theoretical invention called a time machine. Movement can occur from the present backward to the past or forward to the future. Time travel is a recognized domain in philosophy and science fiction, often supported by theoretical physics, typically quantum mechanics, string theory, or black holes. It's generally considered easier to travel to the future than to the past. There is no widespread agreement on which literary works represent exemplary examples of time travel stories in ancient times because some original works only contain vague hints of time travel. Ancient myths and folklore only include a few details, such as the main character's journey to the future. Basically, there are three most commonly mentioned methods for time travel to the future: cryonics and waking up in the future. The simplest method. Second is traveling at extremely high speeds according to the theory of relativity, where astronauts would be younger in reality because the time they experience is shorter than the time humans on Earth experience. Did you know that when traveling between continents by plane, we are also time traveling, but with very small time differences? Thirdly, we can approach the event horizon of a black hole because the closer we get to the strong gravitational pull of the black hole, the slower time becomes. So how feasible are each of these options? Are they really useful? The first method is also the most feasible option. We can put ourselves into a state of almost suspended animation and then wait for technology to develop before waking up. There are actually people in the world who are in such a cryonic state. But that is not time travel at all. In essence, time still passes. The method from the third option is beyond our capabilities, not feasible with current technology. Think about how many thousands of years of scientific development it took just to get us to the moon. Imagine how many more years it would take for someone to travel beyond the solar system, let alone close to a black hole. Therefore, we will focus most on option number 2. For example, if we have an experiment that takes a very long time to know the result, say about 10,000 years. Suppose time travel technology exists. We will put that experiment on a spaceship flying almost at the speed of light, then wait for it to return to Earth and receive the result. If this idea succeeds, it will not only help us solve the problem of waiting for experimental results but also potentially solve all calculation issues depending on the speed of the spaceship. However, there are challenges with this approach. The biggest issue is the immense amount of energy required to accelerate. Currently, there is no technology to create vehicles that can exceed the speed of light because we have not yet found a breakthrough to escape Einstein's legendary equation E=mc². An object in existence will have a correlation between three variables: energy, velocity, and mass. The momentum of an object with mass increases with velocity. An object traveling at the speed of light would have an infinitely large mass. For a spacecraft to achieve the speed of light, its mass would have to be equal to half the mass of the Earth. We certainly do not have the capability to build something like that. To increase the velocity of an object with mass to the speed of light, it would require finite acceleration over infinite time or infinite acceleration over finite time. Both of these methods require an infinite source of energy, which we currently do not have. Only massless particles like photons can achieve the speed of light. Objects with mass can only approach the speed of light. However, it may be possible if we solve the problem by creating matter with negative energy. According to the equation E=mc², to create matter with negative energy, its mass must be negative. Since the speed of light is always constant, quantum mechanics tells us that theoretically, we can create matter with negative energy in extremely small quantities and for extremely short periods of time. At the same time, there is no evidence to suggest that we cannot create negative energy. Moreover, we can find equations that allow time travel without the need for these materials. Therefore, the issue lies only in our current technical state or our limited understanding of quantum mechanics. Time travel to the past sounds incredibly difficult and far-fetched. However, the most noteworthy part is this: traveling back to the past is truly a daunting task both in reality and in theory. If we view time as a linear flow according to Newton, time travel essentially resembles a train running on its tracks. As time flows, it leaves a trail behind it. So, is it possible to travel backward along these trails? Essentially, it's like opening the train door and jumping out, then walking backward along the track. But the hypothesis here is whether you can be sure you won't veer off the track beforehand. Unlike reality, the time track here is invisible and intangible. You can't accurately perceive it. Therefore, if you jump off the time train, are you sure which path to walk backward on? Deviating from the time track and falling into an infinite loop is very easy. Even if you succeed in returning to the past, there's no guarantee you can return to the present. How can you follow the time train when you've strayed too far? You run for a second, the time train also moves forward by a second. Therefore, time travelers may end up trapped in the past. But nothing is impossible. All you need is a time travel device with enough speed to break the time barrier, and everything changes completely. The best part of traveling to the past lies here. The paradoxes that arise when we venture into the past. The most famous and challenging paradox is the grandfather paradox. The grandfather paradox is a problem in time travel paradoxes, simply understood as an issue that cannot be understood or solved. It was first described by the science fiction writer Barjavel in the novel, La Voix Jaeger Ipro. However, similar issues were described earlier. A classic example is Robert A. Heinlein's novel, By His Bootstraps. The grandfather paradox is based on the following hypothesis: a man travels back in time and kills his own grandfather before he marries his grandmother. As a result, his father will not be born. This leads to the man himself never being born. So how can he travel back to the past? But if he doesn't go back to the past to kill his grandfather, then his grandfather must still be alive, and that means he would still be born and able to travel through time to kill his grandfather. Both scenarios negate the existence of each other. This is a type of logical paradox. Although this theory is called the grandfather paradox, it doesn't specifically address the impossibility of someone being born. Rather, this concept encompasses any actions that create the impossibility of time travel to the past from the outset. The term grandfather paradox is the most commonly used name to describe the phenomenon of time travel paradoxes. Another example is when we use scientific knowledge from scientist A to create a time machine and then use it to travel to the past to kill scientist A. If scientist A is killed before inventing that scientific knowledge, the time machine would not exist either. And when it doesn't exist, how can we return to the past to kill scientist A? It's a vicious circle of cause and effect repeating itself. This leads us to the next paradox of time travel to the past, called the predestination paradox. The predestination paradox, or causal loop, is a time travel paradox often used in science fiction works. The causal loop of time includes an event one happening before another as a cause, or at least one of the causes of event two happening later. And through time travel, event 2 becomes the cause of event 1. The paradox occurs when time travelers fall into a loop of predestined events. When someone travels back in time, event 2 becomes the event of the time traveler returning to the past, and event 1 is something the time traveler did in the past that makes them want to go back to fix it. This paradox hypothesizes that time travelers have no way to change an event. For example, when someone goes back in time to save a person from a car accident, and in the past, that person drives to the accident scene before it happens. They inadvertently hit the person they went back to save, leading to their death and causing the future self to want to return to the past. Leading to their death and causing the future self to want to return to the past. This theory is closely related to the identity paradox, where there is something undetermined in the cause, in this case, the reason for time travel. The reason for time travel. The paradox does not agree that there is a greater plan from a higher source. It only asserts that time is immutable. Events can still occur due to causal relationships rather than by a supernatural origin. Similar to the predestination paradox, we have the bootstrap paradox. When an object or information from the future is sent back to the past, it will affect the existence of that information or object in the present. It is described with an example like this. You go back to the past and sing a song by your favorite singer. Then the singer hears it and creates a new song. So, who created the song? Not you or the singer. The bootstrap paradox always creates mystery about the origin of information in many novels, movies involving time travel. To make time travel a feasible task, we must address these paradoxes. A common misconception in science fiction is that paradoxes can be created. Time travelers are often warned not to change too much from their past or repeat their past actions. An example of this is found in many time travel-themed movies like the Back to the Future trilogy. However, in actual physics, it's not an event that can truly happen but rather a purely theoretical concept used to illustrate the contradiction of that theory. In other words, the consistent time loop paradox not only implies that time travel is a dangerous action, but it also suggests that it may be entirely impossible. This is one of the motivations for Hawking's chronology protection conjecture. Hawking believed that time travel is impossible. He also conducted a simple experiment to prove his point. He wrote an invitation stating the location and time of a party he was hosting and sent it to the future thousands of years later to invite future people to attend his party. But how to send that letter to the people of the future thousands of years later? It's quite simple. Put the invitation into a sturdy metal box and bury it underground. Thousands of years later, when the future people dig it up, they will know Hawking's location and even his GPS coordinates on the timeline. If there were a time machine to travel back in time like in the future, they would surely come to Hawking's party because, after all, he is a reputable theoretical physicist for humanity. Unfortunately, Hawking waited all day but no future people came to attend his party. But that conjecture still wasn't convincing enough for other scientists. And instead of ruling out time travel due to paradoxes, we can eliminate those paradoxes themselves, and the universe will be much more fascinating. To resolve the time travel paradoxes, theoretical physicist Igor Novikov proposed the self-consistency conjecture theory. The basic idea of this theory is that you can travel to the past, but you cannot change the past. Novikov pointed out that if you went back 5 minutes and tried to destroy the time machine, you would find that it is completely impossible to do so because the laws of physics would intervene and protect the consistency from being disrupted. Applied to Hawking's case, you could time travel to the past, but you couldn't change the past in any way, not even appearing in front of Hawking at the party. Physics always has a way to maintain consistency and the history it has created. So, if you could really travel to the past, you would probably only exist there as an observer, like someone with viewer-only rights in a Google Doc file without the ability to edit it. But what's the benefit of time travel without changing the past? At the very least, it allows us to confirm history. If you can't change history, at least you know what actually happened and verify whether what historians have recorded is accurate or not. However, even the self-consistency principle of Novikov alone cannot resolve all paradoxes. Instead, this man proposed a more plausible theory. His name is Barak Shashani, an assistant professor of physics at Brock University, Canada. Shashani proposed a different idea about time travel, where multiple timelines exist, and we can actually change a certain timeline. In other words, Shashani's concept is similar to what we see in Marvel movies, where multiple timelines exist simultaneously. This could potentially resolve any time travel paradox, including the grandfather paradox, Shashani said. When you step out of the time machine, you fall into a different timeline rather than your own. In that timeline, you can do whatever you want, including killing your own grandfather, without altering anything in your original timeline. Because your grandfather in your original timeline remains alive, your father will still be born, and so will you. No paradoxes will occur. Shashini has been studying time travel paradoxes for many years. Now, he increasingly believes that time travel is entirely possible, but only if our universe allows the existence of multiple timelines. So the question arises, can there be multiple timelines in the universe? From a quantum mechanics perspective, the answer seems to be yes, but these are just Shashini's speculations. He is currently searching for a time travel theory that combines multiple timelines and is fully compatible with the theory of relativity. Of course, even if they find such a theory, it won't be enough to prove that time travel is possible. But at least it means that time travel is not completely ruled out by the self-consistency paradox. Time travel and parallel timelines always go hand in science fiction. However, researchers have proven that they cannot be separated in the real world. Both the theory of relativity and quantum mechanics tell us that time travel is possible. And so, humans have every right to dream, even pursue the idea of building a time machine seriously. To be precise, a machine that jumps between different timelines and universes. You know, the present will soon become the past. So, we don't need to go back to the past to change the future. Change something right now so that your future doesn't have to wish for a time machine. That's truly controlling time. And our time today has also run out. I'm glad you stayed until now. Don't forget to support us by subscribing to the channel and watching the next videos. Goodbye. See you again and have a great day. Thank you.